مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون أو كصيب من السماء فيه ظلمات ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابعهم في آذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت والله محيط بالكافرين يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This is session number 8. And last session was from مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا, in which Allah talked about the parable of a person who stoked a fire, and once the fire lit up all around them, then Allah took their light. He talked about how that was like the people who struggled for Islam, to find Islam, to investigate Islam, and then to reject Christianity and then accept Islam as far as TMO is concerned. And this is an example of where we saw them were like that, how they stoked the fire of Islam. They had it, then Allah took away their light because of them following deviance and them not using that same diligence and that same methodology to really verify their beliefs and make sure that what they were believing was from the book of Allah. Like how they rejected Christianity, they should have applied that still when they after they accepted Islam, and whenever new things were introduced to them via TMOA and the teachings of Mubarak Jalani. So the next section Allah is talking about another parable. And Allah says, أَوْ كَصَيِّبٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ فِيهِ ظُلُمَاتٌ وَرَعْدٌ وَبَرْقٌ يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِم مِّنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ وَاللَّهُ مُحِيطٌ بِالْكَافِرِينَ. And Allah says that, or like those that are caught in a rainstorm from the sky with darkness, thunder, and lightning. They press their fingers into their ears at the sound of every thunderclap, fearing death. So they're putting their fingers in their ears. Allah's giving an example. They're putting their fingers in their ears in this storm and trying to, like it's going to save them from death. I mean, so they're trying to block out the sound of this storm. And Allah encompasses the disbelievers by His might. So in the Tafseer, Ibn Kathir talks about how this parable of this rainstorm is like kasayyibin is like the rain. This word, it means the rain, and that the thunder that shocks the hearts with fear. And these ayahs are talking about, in Ibn Kathir, he's explaining about how these are applying to the hypocrites. Once again, I'm not specifying any person or any group basically saying that they are hypocrites. What we're saying is that these ayahs, we look at them and we try to make sure that we are not having these characteristics, or we point them out when we see them. So the Tafseer Ibn Kathir is talking a lot about the hypocrites and how these ayahs apply. But for us, even ourselves, whether we're talking about TMOA or our own selves, we have to look at it and see how these ayahs can help us and to guide us. If they apply to us, then we have to take that admonition and try to correct our behavior. So what does Ibn Kathir say about this? This is another parable which Allah gave about the hypocrites who sometimes know the truth and doubt it at other times. When they suffer from doubt, confusion, disbelief, their hearts are like these things, like in the rainstorm and the thunder that shocks the hearts with fear. The hypocrites are usually full of fear and anxiety. And the lightning وَبَرْقٌ is a reference to the light of faith that is sometimes felt in the hearts of the hypocrites. So, and I'll get into this as far as specifically how this concerns TMOA momentarily, but let's just go through what Ibn Kathir has to say about these ayahs. So, as I said, they thrust their fingers into their ears. يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They stuff their fingers into their ears to keep out the stunning thunderclap for fear of death. But Allah ever encompasses the disbelievers. Meaning, this is Ibn Kathir, their cautiousness does not benefit them. Remember this. Their cautiousness does not benefit them because they are bound by Allah's all-encompassing will and decision. So, they're cautious, and there's two groups. There's actually two groups associated with TMOA that are very cautious, and they do this. Maybe not. There's one group that definitely puts their fingers in their ears, but there's another group that's very cautious, but they're not factoring in that. I don't want to say they're not factoring in, but they have to take this into consideration, that we are all bound by Allah's all-encompassing will and His decisions. The lightning almost snatches away their sight, meaning because the lightning is strong in itself, and because their comprehension is weak and does not allow them to embrace the faith. So that light of Islam, the truth of Islam is coming, and because their comprehension is weak, it doesn't allow, it's so bright, it's so heavy, it's so strong that, and because they're not strong enough to take it, that it doesn't allow them to embrace the faith. Keep these things in mind. Whenever it flashes for them, they walk therein. كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا. That whenever it flashes for them, they walk, and they are enjoying the benefits of Islam and being Muslim, or being part of the main body of Muslims. وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا. When it gets dark for them, darkens over them, they stand up, they stay still, they stop, they're ready to, as it says, they're ready to revert to disbelief. Tafseer, Ibn Kathir goes on to say that every person among the people of Tawheed, Islamic monotheism, will have a light on the day of resurrection, and there are other ayahs that detail this light and how it will be, and that will come up later, inshallah, and if Allah allows us to live that long, we will cover them in detail. But one thing that I want to highlight and point out is that Ibn Kathir talks about that there are different types of hearts, different types of people that Allah goes over and explains in these ayahs, but specifically for the hypocrites, that there's two types. One is the full-blown hypocrite. They're not even pretending to be, they are pretending to be Muslim, but they have no faith in their heart. They're just trying to benefit off of the Muslims or to cause the Muslims trouble. And then the second type is the hesitant hypocrite. And this is what Ibn Kathir is talking about, the hesitant hypocrite. He says, whose light of faith is sometimes lit and sometimes it is extinguished. So this parable of the thunderstorm and them being afraid and trying to block out what's happening in this storm is the parable that Allah sets forth in these ayahs. Now, for TMOA specifically. Now, how does this apply to them, or how can we look at it as an example for ourselves? For those people surrounding it, either outside of it, inside of it, halfway in, halfway out. Listen to what Allah says and see how we can see it from our angle, or how it can apply to us. What does Allah say? أو كصيب من السماء فيه ظلمات ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابعهم في آذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت. That is like a storm, all right? A rainstorm that they are in. And what is like that storm? For TMOA, the storm that they are then, because of the sound of the thunder, the lightning, and the lightning, as Ibn Kathir even explains, that it's like the lightning is the truth, the light of Islam, but it's very bright. It's bright, and يكاد يخطف أبصارهم, that it almost snatches away their light, right? It snatches away their sight because of the brightness and the heaviness of the truth of Islam. But so they are in this storm, and that storm for them, for the people in TMOA, the people who have ascribed to or follow Mubarak Jalani and now his spiritual successor, their Sheikh, is that it's so the storm is so heavy and afraid for them. This storm is basically anyone who is highlighting that their beliefs and practices is not part of Islam, that it contradicts Islam, and anyone that is speaking out against this or highlighting this, they are part of this storm, right? So before it was a person here and there. Nowadays, I mean, you have R2F, and people who are speaking very directly, very clearly, with proofs, with evidences, with receipts, and it is causing a storm within their community. And how do they respond? How do the individuals respond? I remember when I was first giving some nasiha to friends of mine and family members and people, and talking to them, what is the thing that they do? First, they try to talk to you, and say, things about their community, lots of things that are not even true, but they try to, say, well, Abuji says this, or Sheikh Jilani says that, and this is what we're supposed to do. We have to follow a Sheikh and all these things. And when you start to bring the Quran and the Sunnah, authentic evidences and dalil, what do? Everyone who has given da'wah to their family members and friends know exactly what happens. They block you. They either stop talking to you, right? This is them putting their fingers in their ears. يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They put their fingers in their ears. Why? Because it's too heavy. It's too much. They don't return with actual evidences from Allah, from the messenger. They block you. They say, I'm not talking to you anymore. And this is actually the mission. This is one of the main points of TMOA. If someone speaks in a way that is contrary to what we believe, to what the TMOA doctrines are, the TMOA aqidah is, excommunicate them. We do not talk to them. We do not debate with them. We do not exchange ayahs of Quran or the Sunnah or anything, tenets of Islam with them. The thing is just complete excommunication. Cut them off from their family, cut them off from their friends, don't talk to them. This is their aqidah. Now, and this is basically what they do. When that storm starts to rumble and the light of the Quran and the Sunnah is hitting them, they put them fingers in those ears, they block you. I even, I mean, there's even people who will block you. Then they want to send you something that they think is some sort of proof or something. They will then unblock you, send it to you, and then block you again. So you can't even respond. They don't even want to even be to any sort of response. They don't even want to hear Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They do not want to hear that because it scares them. Because this will, there actually is no response for it. There's no ability to come back when Allah says X or Y or Z. No one can do anything. They can't then say, well, Allah. Well, actually, I take that back. Some of them then do go over top of what Allah says and then say what their sheikh says, or they go over top of what Rasulullah says and say what their sheikh says. But this is the equivalent, or this is an example to me of when Allah says they put their fingers in their ears. This is what they do. They block you, they excommunicate you, and they boycott you. And so when Allah says, then yakadu al-barqu yakhtafu absarahum, and almost takes away their sight. Kullama adaa lahum mashaw fihi. Every time, however, any time you'll find them that and when Allah says kullama adaa lahum mashaw fihi, every time that they have some light and they are able to see, they walk in it. They walk in this light. And that is like when they think they have some support from the Quran or some support from the Sunnah, then they will send it. They will post it. They will send it to you, put it on their statuses and different things, and they find this as being support. But when and a lot of times it's stuff that's fabricated or misquoted, taken out of context. But whenever وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا, but when the darkness comes over them, they stand up and they don't say when the evidences are brought against them and they're refuted with sound evidence from Quran and Sunnah and from the Ijma' of Islam, they stand up. They don't want to talk anymore. They don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to even concede that what we're saying is correct. They don't even want the opportunity to have to say, you are right. Allah did say that. You are correct. Rasulullah did say don't do that. You are correct. So then they stand up. They even take it further when they want to, another example of how when they're walking in the light of Islam, like with the Muslims, and anything that the Muslims do, they will consider themselves amongst the Muslims, the good things, the beneficial things. We just talked about how they use their masajid and all these different things. But as soon as, it's those beliefs not matching up with the other Muslims, they step back, they quit, they boycott them. They say they're not actually, real Muslims or whatever. So they do this thing going back and forth, but they are not able to maintain actually staying steadfast on the Quran and the Sunnah. So they waffle back and forth, and whenever it's presented to them, it's so heavy, and the truth hits so hard that the only thing they can do is back away, run, block you, and excommunicate you and boycott you. And this is the thing, them putting their fingers in their ears. What's the next thing? Those who have knowledge. So then Allah goes on to say that يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم. And if Allah wanted, Allah says that if Allah willed, He could take away their hearing and their seeing. He can take it away from them. So when Allah says, "Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir," Allah is able to do all things. Now, when we talk about in this ayah, there are people who claim to be members of TMOA. They ascribe to their belief system and their what's it called? Their aqidah. They're part of the group. They're card carrying members or whatever, and they have some knowledge of Quran and the Sunnah. They know it. And when Allah says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِم, you have to think to yourself, that ability to see and hear and understand the Quran and the Sunnah and Islam, the truth of Islam, to be able to have the iman and understand it in your heart with your heart, and then be able to articulate that to other people, that is a gift from Allah. The guidance is a gift from Allah. And there are some people in TMOA who have the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, and they know that what we're saying is true, and they know that what TMOA is doing is not true. Yet for different reasons, they're still in there. But if they're not careful, as Allah said, لَذَهَبَ بِسَمِعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. If you're not careful, Allah can take away your ability to see and hear the truth and act upon it. Because right now, you're either keeping silent about what you know to be true, or you are helping them in finding ways with the Quran and some ahadith. Lots of them are weak that they do even present, but in furthering their deviance when you know actually they don't have anything to stand on. So you guys should be careful. The little bit that you have to hold on to, Allah will take that from you if you're not careful. And Allah says that He definitely can do it. He's able to do all things. It's the same thing, similarly, and then we'll close with this, similarly to how some people that are clearly out of TMOA, as far as their beliefs, they're firm on their belief that they are no longer in TMOA. They don't believe it at all. Yet they're still technically members. They're within the community, but they're quiet. So when they're out and about, the Muslims, they walk in that benefit, and they enjoy the benefits of being amongst the Muslims. And then when they have to go back to their homes in TMOA or visit their family members or whatever, they're quiet and they don't say anything about the wrongs, the injustices and the deviants of TMOA. So they have it both ways. They're not believers in TMOA at all, but they also are still benefiting. And I say that is also an example that you can look at when Allah says, كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُمْ مَشَوْا فِيهِ. Every time it's lit up for them, they walk in it and they enjoy and they benefit. وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. But when it gets dark for them, then they stand up and they climb up and they become afraid. They can't actually speak out and act on the truth. For those people that are clearly not in TMOA, they don't have the belief, but they're still interacting and dealing with them on a way, and they're not making it clear to them what they stand on and the things that they are doing that are wrong. Then in this is still a way of having that two-way go, as we talked about. And when Allah says, "Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir," that Allah is able to do all things, and He is the one who is encompassing everything. So this fear of you losing out on something by not speaking out, saying, "Oh, this is not the right time. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I don't know what would happen." At some point in time, you have to take that step forward and go and say what needs to be said, because as we've gone through in these ayahs, and this is the last ayah that deals with the hypocrites. This is one of the traits of the hypocrites, in which they are amongst people who they actually don't believe what they believe. This is one of the traits. We have to be careful and avoid that at all costs, so that we are not grouped in with those types of people. And Allah knows best. We'll leave it there. The next ayah is dealing with different subject matter. So we will do that next week, inshallah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.